let's look at this. What does this look like? Well, that looks remarkably like knitting, does it not? And this is actually the fabric that's used in that gorgeous sea cloche hat that we've got in the most recent issue. It uses the Tunisian Knit Stitch, also abbreviated as TKS. What's great about this is you get a fabric that looks very much like knitting, but again, like the simple stitch fabric that I showed you, it's quite dense and it's quite stiff, which actually would be super for a hat. So we've got that gorgeous, gorgeous hat, and you want it to hold its shape on your head. This is a perfect fabric for it. And let me show you how you create that fabric. Again, we're going to remove my removable stitch marker there. And this time, let me tension my yarn. This time, instead of going under these vertical bars, what we're actually going to do is we're going to go into that stitch. So if I put my hook into the stitch and bring the yarn through, look at what's resulting. Looks like a knit stitch, does it not? The funny thing about this fabric is until you've stretched it or steamed it or really got it wet and flattened it, it does roll up a lot. I'll just keep holding that down. But I'm going into the middle of that stitch as if it's a knit stitch, grabbing my yarn and bringing it up. And if we look at the fabric, the columns of fabric just below that, can you see you've got columns of knit stitches? From a distance, what tends to happen because of the tension, it tends to look like it's a twisted knit kind of fabric. And when I first saw a picture of this, I thought, hang on, it's all twisted. It's not. You're going into that knit stitch from front to back and wrapping the yarn for a crochet move. And just like the simple stitch, we do a forward pass. So this is how they're all done. There's a forward pass. And then I find that very pleasing. Look at that tidy fabric and the tidy loops on the hook. We do a return pass. We pull up a loop and then we come across two and come across two. And this is our return pass. So it's always forward pass where you pick up the loops. Someone described this to me as, well, you're essentially casting on and binding off in pairs. So you come across with your forward pass from right to left and pick up the loops. And then our return pass goes from left to right and we close up all the loops. And done. And if you want to get really clever, there is also such a creature known as a Tunisian purl stitch. Let's go back to this clever thing. As I mentioned, we've got yarn over increases in our Tunisian crochet, and then we've got decreases. And we decrease here, increase, decrease, increase, decrease. And there are larger number of repeats in the pattern to create bigger scallops on a more dramatic stole. Let me show you how that pattern stitch works. I've created a very small sample here in my big yarn so you can see my stitches. And the analog is kind of remarkable and you can almost figure it out. If a standard Tunisian simple stitch is that you put the hook under and pull through to do a decrease, well, it's TSS2 tog, right? Tunisian simple stitch two together, basically. Let me show you that again. We go under 1, 2, grab the yarn and pull it through. Clever, huh? Then our next one, under 1, under 2. Now that vertical strand looks a little bit different, and I'm going to explain why, but the move is the same. And this pattern has you do 3 decreases. And then we need to do a yarn over. Can you guess how you do a yarn over? Ta-da! Exactly as you might expect. You just put the yarn over the hook, and then we grab this, and there's our Tunisian simple stitch, and we yarn over, and we grab the next vertical strand, and here's how that goes. The reason that some of these vertical strands look a little bit different is because they're actually the vertical strands that have resulted from the yarn over on the previous pass. But yarn over, Tunisian simple stitch, right? There you go. And when it's time for decrease, you'll just pick up 2 of the vertical strands and work those together. How simple is that? It's incredibly pleasing and incredibly logical, I think you'll find as well. So if you've worked feather and fan before, this will seem familiar, this will seem quite logical and wonderful at the same time. I definitely encourage you to give this technique a go. It really is a lot of fun, and like crochet, it's faster than knitting. It also uses up a little bit more yarn, so it can be an excellent way of going through your stash. And whether you want to start with the hat, which just uses that standard Tunisian crochet knit stitch, the TKS, and how you work in the round is absolutely genius. It's the same thing. You go there and back, and you go there and back again. It's the same thing. It's immensely cool. Or you're feeling adventurous and you want to give this stole a try, I would definitely encourage you to look at these patterns. Expand your knitter's toolkit a little bit, your yarn crafter's toolkit a bit, and dip your toe into something new. I hope you'll be as enchanted by it as I was.